Long before words reach our lips, a different language speaks for us. A glance that lingers, a hesitation in breath, the stillness between movements, these silent signals shape how we are understood. They can build trust, reveal fear, or ignite connection without a single sound. This is the unspoken rhythm of human interaction, a language most overlooked yet everyone speaks. To uncover it is to step into a hidden world where influence flows quietly, where understanding deepens beyond sentences, and where the strongest connections are formed not by what we say, but by what we silently share. Every interaction begins long before words are spoken. The way we enter a room, the pace of our steps, even the way we hold our shoulders communicates a story. These silent signals shape how others see us, often more than the words that follow. A calm presence can speak of confidence, while restless movement can whisper uncertainty. Before a single sound leaves our lips, our unspoken signals have already introduced us. Our posture is a language that never sleeps. A straight spine and steady stance transmit quiet assurance, while slouching suggests hesitation or retreat. Others respond not just to what we say, but to what our body declares about us. These silent cues operate below awareness, but they guide the respect, trust, and openness people are willing to extend. Strength in posture is strength in presence. Eye contact carries its own universe of meaning. A steady gaze can radiate truth, openness, and authority, while avoidance can suggest insecurity or hidden motives. Yet, too much intensity can overwhelm. The balance lies in connecting with the eyes as though you are listening with your soul. Without a word spoken, the eyes weave trust or raise barriers. Even silence itself is not empty. It has weight. A pause in conversation can create suspense, calm, or even discomfort, depending on how it is carried. A thoughtful pause signals depth and control, while rushed speech often signals nervousness. Those who command silence as much as speech carry a rare kind of influence. In silence, people lean closer, waiting for what comes next. Gestures move like punctuation in the language of the body. A hand resting calmly on the table can show stability, while restless fidgeting communicates inner turbulence. Small, deliberate movements often carry more impact than large, uncontrolled ones. People remember not just the words but the rhythm of your gestures, which echo your state of mind. The rhythm of breathing sends signals most overlook. Slow, steady breaths project calm and patience, while shallow, rapid breathing reveals unease. Others sense this, even unconsciously. In tense moments, those who breathe steadily anchor the room, becoming a quiet center that others instinctively lean toward. Breath is the hidden conductor of presence. Tone of voice, even without the words themselves, speaks volumes. A steady, measured tone invites respect, while erratic shifts reveal tension. Sometimes, it's not what is said, but the calm confidence of how it is delivered that leaves the lasting impression. People remember the sound of certainty more than the content of the sentence. Stillness can be louder than motion. In a world that equates constant activity with importance, the one who can remain composed while others rush becomes magnetic. Stillness communicates inner strength, patience, and control. It says, "Without words, I am not moved by chaos," and that message resonates more deeply than noise. The way we listen is also a silent language. True listening, without interruption, without planning a reply, tells the other person that they are valued. A nod, a tilt of the head, the leaning forward of the body, all of these whisper, "I hear you." Listening with presence is often more persuasive than speaking with brilliance. Unspoken signals extend beyond body and breath. They include the energy we carry. Some enter a space with heaviness that drags the atmosphere down, while others bring lightness that uplifts without trying. This energy is not mystical. It is the accumulated echo of our thoughts, emotions, and self-discipline. People feel us before they hear us. Proximity also shapes connection. Standing too close can overwhelm, while standing too far can feel detached. The silent awareness of personal space communicates respect or intrusion. Mastering this balance shows emotional intelligence, as it adapts to comfort and signals understanding without a single word. Space too has language. Even clothing and grooming whisper messages. Neatness signals respect for oneself and others, while neglect can suggest disorganization or disregard. Colors, styles, and details all form part of the silent introduction we give before we speak. These choices may seem external, but they are interpreted as reflections of inner order or chaos. Facial expressions are micro-signals that escape control. A twitch of the brow, a tightening of the jaw, the softening of the lips, each reveals emotions that words may try to hide. People are trained by instinct to catch these tiny shifts. Our face can betray or reinforce the story our words try to tell. Even the pace of our walk carries messages. A rushed, jittery stride signals anxiety or haste, while a measured, purposeful pace conveys calm authority. Those who walk as though they know where they are going, without rush, naturally invite trust. Movement, as much as speech, reveals mindset. Our digital presence, though silent, also echoes signals. The way we write, the time we take to reply, the tone in our messages, all of these craft impressions. Even in text, silence is a language. A delayed response can mean thoughtfulness, avoidance, or simply presence. We communicate beyond words, even online. Environments we create also become silent messages. A tidy desk, a well-arranged room, or a chaotic space all communicate how we live within ourselves. The external is a mirror of the internal, and others read it instantly. Without a single sentence spoken, people form judgments based on the order we create or fail to create around us. Repetition of small behaviors becomes a silent narrative. A habit of arriving early shows respect, while constant lateness speaks of disregard. A consistent smile builds trust, while a pattern of tension builds distance. These repeated signals tell a louder story than any explanation we try to give. The body reacts before the mind can censor. A flinch, a tightening grip, a shift of weight. These are instinctive signals that others interpret quickly. Self-awareness allows us to notice these impulses and train them into alignment with the story we want to send. Control over our signals is control over perception. Hidden signals do not just influence others, they shape us as well. When we choose to walk calmly, breathe deeply, and hold our posture with strength, we begin to embody the very calmness we project. The silent signals we send reinforce the state of mind we live in, creating a cycle of inner and outer strength. Echoes without sound shape human connection in ways we rarely admit. Long after words are forgotten, people remember how our presence made them feel. They recall the calm, the warmth, or the unease we radiated. The silent language is not secondary. It is the first and lasting chapter of every human story. A pause is not emptiness. It is a vessel filled with unspoken meaning. When we stop between words, we give space for the mind to settle and the heart to listen. Silence sharpens attention in ways noise cannot. It is often in the pause that people hear what matters most, not in the flood of hurried speech. The weight of a pause lies in its ability to slow time. In conversation, people expect a constant stream of words, yet when silence appears, it breaks the rhythm and commands attention. Suddenly, the listener leans forward, waiting for what will follow. The pause transforms ordinary speech into something memorable. Every pause carries intention, whether conscious or not. A deliberate pause can signal thoughtfulness, while a hesitant one can reveal uncertainty. Listeners sense the difference, even if they cannot explain it. This unspoken signal either builds credibility or raises doubt, depending on the way the silence is held. In moments of conflict, a pause can diffuse tension faster than argument. Instead of meeting fire with fire, silence creates space for emotions to settle. By not reacting instantly, we allow the heat of anger to cool and the clarity of reason to return. The pause becomes a shield, stronger than defense or attack. The human brain processes silence differently than sound. Words are analyzed logically, but a pause activates reflection. When we stop speaking, we invite the listener's mind to wander, to fill in the silence with their own thoughts. This makes pauses powerful tools of influence, because people feel ownership over the meaning they discover. A pause is also a test of composure. Those who are uncomfortable with silence rush to fill it, often revealing insecurity or haste. Those who can hold silence with calmness project confidence and strength. People instinctively trust someone who does not fear the absence of words. The art of storytelling thrives on pauses. A well-placed silence before a key revelation makes the audience anticipate with excitement. Too many words without breath flatten the rhythm of speech, but silence creates suspense. In this way, the pause becomes a brushstroke of emphasis in the painting of communication. In personal relationships, a pause often communicates more love than words. Sitting with someone in shared silence, without the need to explain or fill space, reflects trust and comfort. The quiet moments between conversations often strengthen bonds more than endless chatter. Stillness becomes the language of connection. Pauses allow us to listen to ourselves as well. In the stillness between words, we hear our own thoughts more clearly. This self-reflection often reveals truths hidden beneath the rush of daily speech. The pause is not just for others, it is for our own awareness. In negotiation, silence is a weapon few understand. After making a point, holding silence pressures the other side to speak, often revealing more than they intended. People feel compelled to fill gaps, and in doing so, they expose their concerns, weaknesses, or desires. The pause gives power to the patient. Even nature teaches us the value of pauses. The ocean waves rise and fall with rhythm. The heartbeat rests between beats, and music only moves us because of the rests between notes. Without pauses, there would be no rhythm, no balance, no meaning. Silence is not absence, but structure. A pause is a chance for alignment. Words spoken in haste may betray our true intentions, but silence gives us the opportunity to choose wisely. In pausing, we step back from impulse and allow clarity to guide our response. This transforms reactions into thoughtful action. In teaching or leadership, silence carries gravity. When a leader pauses after asking a question, the weight of expectation inspires deeper answers. When a teacher allows silence, students reflect instead of rushing. Pauses command focus and create space for growth. Pauses also reveal emotional maturity. Instead of interrupting, the one who waits shows patience. Instead of rushing to defend, the one who breathes shows restraint. Silence is not weakness. It is proof of self-control. The ability to pause reflects strength of character. There is healing power in silence. In moments of grief, words often fail, but presence without speech can comfort more than any phrase. A hand held in silence, a shared stillness in pain, says, "I am with you." The pause becomes the balm words cannot provide. A pause can also be an act of respect. By stopping to let another finish, we acknowledge their voice. By allowing silence before replying, we show that we considered their words with care. Respect is rarely shouted. It is often whispered through stillness. In spiritual practices, silence is sacred. Prayer, meditation, and reflection are all anchored in the pause. The absence of noise opens space for awareness of the eternal. In stillness, we sense truths too delicate for words to carry. The pause becomes a doorway to the unseen. Our culture often fears silence, equating it with awkwardness or emptiness. Yet those who embrace it discover freedom. They no longer rush to prove themselves through endless talking. Instead, they let their silence carry strength. In this way, they stand apart in a noisy world. The weight of a pause is the weight of presence. It reminds us that silence is not wasted. It is the canvas that gives meaning to sound. Words without pauses blur into noise, but with silence, they gain shape and life. Mastering the pause is mastering the rhythm of connection. The eyes are windows, not only to the soul, but to the unspoken truths that words cannot hold. Long before language existed, humans read emotions through the gaze. Fear, trust, and love were all carried in a look. Even today, the eyes remain the purest channel of communication, often more honest than speech. A steady gaze carries strength, not because of intensity, but because of sincerity. When someone looks directly without flinching or avoiding, they transmit confidence and openness. It is not about staring, but about presence. The willingness to be seen and to see. In that moment, truth travels silently. The absence of eye contact tells its own story. Avoidance may reveal discomfort, guilt, or shyness. Sometimes it is not weakness, but protection, a shield from vulnerability, to read beyond dialogue. One must learn not to judge quickly, but to observe patterns. Eyes reveal not only emotion, but intention. In moments of joy, the eyes sparkle in ways the mouth cannot mimic. Genuine happiness lights the gaze with warmth that no forced smile can duplicate. This is why laughter feels hollow when the eyes remain cold. True connection happens when the eyes join the expression, confirming the heart behind it. Eyes also betray exhaustion. A weary gaze, even with a composed face, reveals the battles hidden within. Darkness beneath the eyes, a distant stare, or the heaviness of lids tells of burdens unspoken. Words may mask fatigue, but the eyes rarely cooperate with the mask. The intensity of focus in the eyes can inspire or intimidate. When someone listens with eyes fully present, it communicates respect and importance. Conversely, when the gaze wanders, even without words, it signals distraction and disregard. People feel seen or dismissed based on the direction of your eyes. In relationships, eyes often carry the first spark. Attraction is communicated in lingering glances, small pauses, and subtle looks exchanged. Words may be cautious, but the eyes leap ahead, confessing interest before the lips dare to. Entire stories begin in silence, spoken only by the gaze. Anger sharpens the eyes into weapons. A narrowed gaze, a piercing look, can wound more deeply than raised voices. In conflict, the eyes speak louder than arguments, often cutting through defenses. Yet the opposite is true. Forgiveness softens the gaze in ways words struggle to express. In leadership, the eyes matter more than tone. Crowds trust leaders whose eyes radiate conviction rather than fear. A leader may stumble in words, but if the eyes burn with purpose, people will follow. The gaze reveals whether someone believes in their own message. Children, untrained in masks, read eyes instinctively. They notice tension, warmth, and distraction more quickly than adults admit. A child knows when affection is real, not from the words but from the gaze. In this innocence lies a reminder: eyes never lie to those who still see with purity. The eyes are also mirrors. When we look into another's eyes, we often glimpse ourselves reflected back. The comfort or discomfort we feel is not only about them, but about what they reveal of us. Connection through the gaze is a shared unveiling of truths. During silence, the eyes continue the conversation. A glance across a room can speak louder than a shout. A moment of mutual gaze can communicate understanding, support, or challenge without sound. Dialogue may end, but the eyes keep speaking in their own language. Eyes reveal what restraint hides. Someone may bite back words of fear or desire, yet their gaze slips and betrays the truth. Observers who learn to watch carefully discover entire worlds hidden in the flicker of an eye. The unspoken often matters more than the spoken. Tears are the language of eyes in their most vulnerable state. They appear when words collapse, carrying grief, relief, or overwhelming joy. Tears transform the gaze into a raw confession. Even in silence, they communicate what no sentence can contain. Cultural differences shape how we read eyes. In some traditions, direct gaze is respect. In others, it may be seen as challenge. Yet across cultures, the power of the eyes remains. Whether in stillness or motion, the gaze always holds significance beyond dialogue. Eyes can also comfort without effort. A calm, steady gaze during another's distress can reassure more than empty words. It says, "You are not alone. I see you." Compassion through the eyes becomes a silent embrace, felt deeply by those who receive it. The honesty of eyes often unsettles liars. While words can be rehearsed, the gaze falters, wanders, or hardens when truth is absent. Observers instinctively feel this dissonance. The eyes reveal alignment or betrayal between speech and heart. In spiritual traditions, the gaze is seen as a channel of energy. Some describe it as the meeting of souls, a bridge that transfers presence. Whether or not one believes this, the undeniable reality is that a gaze can uplift, calm, or inspire transformation without a word spoken. Eyes are not passive. They participate in connection. They confirm love, signal respect, and carry messages that shape relationships. To read depth beyond dialogue is to learn to listen with the eyes as much as with the ears. Only then can we understand the full conversation. The silent language of eyes teaches us that connection begins not with speech but with seeing. When we truly see others, beyond surface and beyond masks, we engage with the essence of who they are. Words may follow, but the gaze has already spoken first. Trust is often thought of as something forged through promises, but its foundation lies deeper than spoken words. It is built in the pauses, in the gestures, in the unseen exchanges that flow between people. This bridge of trust is often unspoken, carried by the consistency of presence and the authenticity of being. The power of silence in trust cannot be overstated. When someone listens without rushing to reply, they signal respect and care. The ability to hold space without interruption builds confidence in the relationship. It tells the other person, "Your words matter, and I am here." That silent presence creates stability. Consistency is the strongest pillar of the unspoken bridge. A person who shows up time after time without needing to declare loyalty becomes dependable. Trust is not built in grand gestures, but in steady reliability. This quiet repetition forms the invisible foundation that holds relationships strong. Trust grows in the way one responds during moments of vulnerability. When someone shares their weakness, and the response is calm, compassionate, and without judgment, the bridge strengthens. It is not the words of comfort alone, but the safe energy carried in silence that nurtures trust. Nonverbal signals carry honesty. in ways words struggle to. A relaxed posture, a warm gaze, or an open stance can speak volumes. These gestures communicate. I have nothing to hide. When such signals align with consistent action, they create a sense of truth that words cannot replicate. The absence of pretension is crucial. People can sense when authenticity is present without needing to hear it declared. Trust thrives where masks are absent. When one's energy matches their behavior, others feel secure crossing the unspoken bridge, confident that no false floor will collapse beneath them. Trust also grows in restraint, choosing not to reveal another's secret, not to exploit another's weakness, creates a silent bond. It is the discipline of what we do not say that often builds the greatest respect. Silence here becomes a guardrail of loyalty. In leadership, the unspoken bridge is the true measure of influence. People follow not just because of speeches, but because of the quiet integrity they sense. A leader who remains calm under pressure, who looks their people in the eye with steady assurance, builds trust without needing to persuade. Shared silence can forge trust faster than long speeches. Two people sitting together in calm stillness without pressure to fill the space often find their bond deepening. This unspoken connection speaks of comfort and understanding beyond dialogue. The bridge is strengthened not by noise but by peace. Trust is also carried in timing, knowing when to speak, when to stay silent, when to act, and when to wait, reveals wisdom. Those who respect the rhythm of trust communicate care without words. Their pauses and choices form an invisible dialogue of reliability. Even small gestures hold enormous weight in building trust. A nod of encouragement, a hand extended at the right moment, or simply showing presence in difficult times. All these silent actions speak louder than promises. Trust is built less in declarations and more in lived signals. The unspoken bridge often forms in crisis. Words may fail when emotions run high, but the calm presence of someone who does not waver becomes a lifeline. People remember who stood beside them quietly in the storm. That loyalty, shown without words, remains unforgettable. Mutual respect is the glue of trust. Respect is not always spoken. It is often shown in patience, in allowing space, in valuing another's perspective. When respect is lived rather than said, the bridge becomes unshakable. Actions declare what words could only hope to prove. The way we listen with our whole being communicates trustworthiness. A person leaning in, eyes attentive, body still, sends the message that they care. It is not the declaration of "I am listening," but the lived reality of listening that builds the bridge. Trust grows in these silent exchanges. Trust is fragile when mismatched signals appear. If words promise honesty, but the gaze flickers with doubt, the bridge weakens. Integrity requires alignment between what is spoken and what is silently transmitted. True trust thrives when words and presence harmonize. Unspoken trust extends beyond individuals to communities. A group bound by silent respect and mutual care thrives, even without constant communication. The culture of unspoken understanding becomes its strength, uniting members without the need for constant affirmation. Even time itself plays a role. Long stretches without contact do not always weaken trust when the bond is genuine. Sometimes, the absence of words reinforces confidence. The unspoken trust says, even without speaking, I know you are there. This kind of bond is rare, but it is real. The bridge of trust also requires patience. Rushing to earn trust often leads to artificial gestures that break under weight. Allowing it to form slowly through consistent action and silent integrity ensures it is strong enough to carry the relationship across challenges. The unspoken bridge is built not with speeches but with presence. Trust is not something demanded. It is something lived. It grows in the quiet, in the steady, in the real, and once built, it often endures far longer than anything words alone could create. The lesson is simple yet profound. Words may start trust, but silence sustains it. What we do not say, how we stand, how we remain, all form the unspoken bridge. It is invisible to the eye, yet indestructible to the heart. In the end, trust without talking is trust most deeply felt. Stillness is not the absence of action, it is a language of its own. In moments when words falter, presence alone can carry meaning. A calm figure in a restless room draws attention without effort. People instinctively sense that there is strength in silence, and that strength resonates beyond speech. The resonance of stillness is powerful because it amplifies presence. When a person can remain calm while others scramble, they naturally become an anchor. This stability becomes magnetic, attracting trust and respect. Stillness is not passive. It is the steady current beneath the surface that holds everything together. In stillness, every gesture becomes more meaningful. A slight nod, a patient smile, or even the absence of reaction communicates volumes. Because noise is absent, the smallest signal is amplified. Presence speaks not by doing more, but by doing less with greater intention. Stillness reveals mastery of self. It shows that one is not swayed by chaos, not enslaved by reaction. This composure communicates strength more convincingly than loud declarations. Others may question words, but they rarely doubt the quiet authority of one who remains centered. The resonance of stillness also comforts. In times of distress, a calm presence can soothe more effectively than rushed reassurance. Simply being there, steady and unshaken, becomes a silent promise of safety. It is not always what is said, but the quiet energy carried that heals. Stillness speaks through the energy it radiates. Some people enter a room with turbulence that unsettles others. Others bring calm that steadies hearts. This unseen vibration is sensed instantly. It is not a performance but a reflection of inner balance made visible through silence. In relationships, stillness becomes a sanctuary. Two people who can sit together without pressure to speak experience a depth of connection beyond words. That shared quiet communicates acceptance and peace. It is a resonance that says, "I am with you, even in silence." Leadership finds its greatest strength in stillness. A leader who does not panic when challenges rise inspires confidence in their people. They do not need to shout to be heard. Their calm presence communicates control. Stillness becomes their language of authority. Stillness carries resonance because it contrasts with the noise of the world. In an environment where everyone rushes to speak, the one who pauses stands out. Their restraint draws more attention than the loudest voice. Silence framed by noise becomes a beacon. Meditation teaches the power of stillness as resonance. In quiet reflection, the mind softens and clarity emerges. That inner stillness radiates outward, influencing interactions. People who cultivate inner calm often find that others are calmed simply by being around them. Stillness is not always silence of the body. It can also be stillness of the heart. When emotions are held steady, instead of spilling out recklessly, they create resonance. This inner peace projects outward, shaping the tone of every interaction. Others sense the calm and respond to it. Resonance in stillness creates respect without demand. People admire those who do not scramble for attention yet are noticed regardless. This quiet dignity does not beg for recognition. It earns it naturally. Stillness has the rare ability to command without commanding. Stillness also sharpens awareness. In the absence of noise, one begins to notice details, the shift of a gaze, the rhythm of breath, the weight of silence. This awareness strengthens intuition, allowing one to read situations more clearly. The resonance is not only felt by others, but by the self. In conflict, stillness diffuses escalation. Arguments thrive on reaction, but when one side refuses to be dragged into noise, the energy changes. Stillness absorbs the storm without feeding it. The resonance of calm eventually forces the other side to slow down and reconsider. Stillness is often mistaken for weakness, but in truth, it is discipline. It takes strength to hold back, to breathe instead of lash out, to wait instead of rush. This hidden strength resonates more deeply than aggression, which burns quickly and fades. Stillness endures. The resonance of stillness often inspires imitation. When one person remains calm, others naturally align with that rhythm. It is contagious in the best way. Presence without panic encourages presence without fear, creating harmony in spaces where chaos once ruled. Stillness also communicates confidence in timing. By not rushing, by allowing silence, one signals trust in the moment. This quiet faith in the unfolding of events reassures others. Stillness says, I do not need to force what will arrive in its time. Even in creativity, stillness resonates. Great ideas often rise, not in noise, but in calm. The mind needs stillness to process, to connect, to imagine. Artists, thinkers, and leaders alike find that their deepest work emerges from moments of silence. Presence in stillness becomes a vessel of inspiration. The resonance of stillness leaves memory behind. People may forget what was said, but they rarely forget how they felt around someone. A calm presence leaves an imprint of safety, strength, and clarity. Long after the moment passes, the stillness echoes within them. Stillness speaks because it embodies control. It tells the world that one is not tossed by every wave, but anchored in depth. That resonance is not loud, but it is lasting. When presence speaks for you, no defense is needed, no noise required. Stillness becomes its own undeniable language. Silence is never empty. It carries the weight of emotion beneath its surface. Before words are spoken, feelings are already present in the pauses, the hesitations, and the quiet spaces between. Silence reveals anger in its tension, sadness in its heaviness, and love in its softness. What lingers unspoken often speaks loudest. When someone remains silent, it is easy to assume neutrality. Yet silence itself has texture. A silence born of peace feels light and open, while a silence shaped by resentment feels suffocating. Observing these shades teaches us that emotions are shadows, revealed in the quiet more than in noise. The shadow of emotion often shows itself in the eyes during silence. Eyes carry restlessness, warmth, pain, or joy, long before the tongue forms words. A look across a silent room can tell a deeper story than hours of conversation. Emotion does not hide well in silence. It leaks through presence. Tension in silence is one of its clearest messages. In a disagreement, the absence of words can be louder than any shouting. That quiet holds the sharp edges of unspoken thoughts. The longer it stretches, the more it reveals the storm within, even when no words are exchanged. In relationships, silence is both a test and a teacher. Partners can sense disconnection or closeness in the still moments between conversations. If silence feels heavy, something is unresolved. If silence feels safe, it reflects trust. Emotions write themselves onto silence without needing permission. Silence after joy is different from silence after sorrow. When people laugh and then fall quiet, the silence hums with warmth. When tears end and silence follows, it carries weight, almost demanding to be acknowledged. These contrasts show how silence changes with the emotional shadow behind it. The shadow of emotion in silence is most noticeable in grief. Words often fail in mourning, but silence becomes the language of loss. The way someone sits, breathes, or avoids eye contact reveals the depth of their pain. Grief speaks not in sentences, but in the spaces between. Even in professional spaces, silence reveals truth. In meetings, a pause after a proposal can signal disagreement, hesitation, or doubt. The unspoken discomfort tells more than polite words might. Silence becomes a mirror of the collective emotional state, showing what people would rather not say. Stillness often heightens the awareness of emotional shadows. When conversation stops, people notice body shifts, sighs, and subtle expressions. Silence strips away distraction, leaving raw emotion exposed. That exposure makes silence both powerful and uncomfortable. Silence also reveals care. Sometimes, sitting quietly beside someone communicates more love than speeches could. In these moments, silence does not hide. It magnifies. The shadow of affection grows strong in stillness, showing that connection does not always need words to survive. Emotional shadows in silence are not always heavy. They can be uplifting. A shared silence while watching a sunset can feel full of peace. No words are needed, because the silence itself is colored by awe. The emotional tone decides whether silence feels empty or abundant. In moments of conflict, silence can carry resistance. Choosing not to respond can reveal pride, defiance, or control. Yet that same silence in a different context might reveal patience and restraint. What silence says first depends not on the words withheld, but on the emotions shaping it. The shadow of emotion in silence can be healing when used with intention. A therapist, teacher, or friend who listens without interruption creates space for others to reveal themselves. This silence is active, not passive. It tells the other person, "I am here, fully present." Silence often betrays nervousness. When someone pauses too long, stumbles in their stillness, or avoids meeting eyes, their unease becomes clear. Words might try to cover it, but silence strips away the disguise. The truth of emotion reveals itself in what is not said. Cultural differences shape how silence is understood, but the shadow of emotion is universal. In some cultures, silence means respect. In others, it may suggest discomfort. Yet, regardless of context, the feeling behind the silence is sensed across boundaries. Emotion makes silence a common language. Silence can reveal longing when two people hesitate to speak. When glances are exchanged but words are withheld, desire becomes obvious. The quiet between them grows thick with unspoken intent. Silence does not conceal the heart. It exposes it. In times of reflection, silence is a companion that shows the emotions buried within. Sitting alone and quiet can bring hidden sadness or forgotten joy to the surface. Without distraction, the shadows of emotion rise to be acknowledged. Silence, then, is both a revealer and a healer. Silence after betrayal carries its own sharp edge. Words may be exchanged, but the true wound is in the quiet afterward. That silence reveals broken trust more clearly than accusations. It lingers heavy with all that cannot be repaired. The shadow it casts is unmistakable. Even when someone tries to mask emotion, silence betrays them. A pause too long, a refusal to answer, or a quiet withdrawal gives away what words cannot. Silence becomes the uninvited truth teller, bringing emotion to light despite attempts to hide it. Silence is the canvas on which emotions paint themselves first. Before words dress them, before actions shape them, emotions leave their shadows in the quiet. To understand silence is to understand the hidden language of the heart. What it reveals is never empty. It is always alive. Movements are rarely random. They carry intention even when unnoticed. A small tilt of the head, the crossing of arms, or the shifting of weight all whisper messages. These invisible gestures speak the truths words avoid. They reveal comfort, resistance, or openness long before the tongue catches up. When someone leans forward during a conversation, it is not only posture, it is interest made visible. When they pull back, it signals distance. Whether emotional or physical, gestures of the body often betray the state of the heart. The invisible becomes obvious if one learns to watch. Hands are storytellers of emotion. A clenched fist shows tension, while open palms reflect honesty or surrender. Fingers tapping against a table can expose restlessness, and gentle touches can offer reassurance. These gestures, though subtle, carry a power far greater than spoken promises. The rhythm of breath itself becomes a gesture of the invisible. Fast, shallow breaths show anxiety, while slow, steady breaths reflect calm. Even without words, the body reveals whether the soul is at ease or burdened. Breath moves like a silent narrator, voicing what cannot be said. Facial gestures are often ungoverned, and therefore deeply truthful. A twitch at the corner of the mouth, a raised brow, or the tightening around the eyes may contradict spoken words. The body often refuses to lie, even when the voice attempts to. Truth leaks through expression. Gestures of distance and closeness communicate relationship boundaries. Standing too near signals intimacy or intrusion, while keeping too much space may show disinterest or fear. These invisible measurements of space speak loudly, defining connections without needing a single sentence. Stillness itself is a gesture that carries meaning. Sometimes, refusing to move or react becomes the loudest message in the room. It shows restraint, patience, or even defiance. Motionless presence is not absence. It is a choice of strength, a gesture carved in silence. Subtle shifts in posture often reveal confidence or insecurity. A straight back with lifted shoulders projects readiness, while slouched movements hint at defeat. People rarely notice the signals they send in how they hold themselves, yet these invisible gestures are read by all. Gestures of mirroring show connection at a deep, unconscious level. When two people mirror each other's movements, crossing legs the same way, leaning in at the same moment, it reveals alignment and rapport. The invisible sync of bodies speaks a language of harmony. Emotional honesty often escapes through micro movements. The quick dart of the eyes, the twitch of a lip, or a sudden hand to the face can reveal hesitation, guilt, or excitement. These gestures last only seconds, yet they carry more meaning than long speeches. Cultural context adds layers to gestures, yet their emotional essence remains universal. A bow may mean respect in one place and confusion in another, but the sincerity of movement is felt across all boundaries. Gestures are invisible bridges between different worlds of understanding. Gestures can carry healing. A gentle hand on the shoulder of a grieving friend, or the simple act of sitting beside someone in silence, communicates support more deeply than repeated words of comfort. Invisible movements often repair what words cannot mend. There are gestures that betray hidden resistance. A forced smile while the eyes look away, or arms crossed tightly while nodding agreement, reveal conflict beneath the surface. The body speaks what the mouth refuses, making invisible truth harder to ignore. Gestures of excitement shine in energy. Quick movements, animated hands, and bright expressions often show joy too great to be contained. The body dances with emotion, becoming a mirror of the soul's enthusiasm. Invisible gestures transform feelings into motion. In leadership, gestures carry authority more than words. A steady gaze, a firm handshake, or a confident stride sends messages of strength without sound. Followers often trust gestures over speeches, because actions prove what declarations cannot. Movement is credibility made visible. Even absence of gestures carries meaning. When someone avoids eye contact, remains motionless, or withdraws from physical interaction, it signals discomfort, fear, or lack of trust. Not moving becomes its own invisible gesture, heavy with unspoken significance. Gestures of rhythm reveal emotion in conversations. Nodding in tune with another's words shows attentiveness, while mismatched movements signal impatience or disconnection. Invisible synchronization allows dialogue to feel alive, while its absence exposes distance. Invisible gestures can also carry memory. A person may touch an object, retrace a habit, or repeat emotion tied to someone they lost. These small, unconscious acts are gestures of remembrance, carrying silent echoes of love and longing. Gestures reveal vulnerability, most clearly when words fail. The trembling of hands, the shifting of feet, or the collapse of posture shows what someone is too afraid to confess. These invisible movements expose the shadow of human fragility. Gestures of the invisible remind us that human beings speak with more than mouths. The body is always in dialogue, shaping connections and exposing truths. To see meaning in movement is to read a language that never lies, the language written in silence, carried in every gesture. True influence is not always carried by volume. The quiet leader shapes environments without demanding attention. Their presence alone changes the tone of a room. Their calm steadies others, and their actions inspire without speeches. This kind of influence is quiet, yet deeply commanding. Quiet influence begins with self-mastery. A person who governs their own reactions, emotions, and choices naturally earns respect. People trust those who remain steady when others shake. In silence, the quiet leader models strength by living it, not announcing it. The power of example is greater than the power of instruction. People follow not what they are told, but what they see. A leader who treats others with patience, who remains composed in storms, silently teaches more than any motivational speech could. Quiet influence thrives in action. Listening becomes the most powerful tool of silent influence. When a leader listens with full attention, others feel valued. That respect fosters loyalty, and loyalty creates trust. In the absence of constant speaking, listening becomes a weapon sharper than command. Calmness in the face of conflict is a form of authority. Those who do not panic give direction simply by being grounded. Others instinctively look to the calmest presence in the room, even without words. Leadership in silence is leadership in steadiness. Quiet influence flows from restraint. Instead of filling every silence with words, a leader knows when to hold back. Restraint shows discipline, and discipline commands admiration. Silence often gives weight to the few words that do follow, making them land with greater force. Silent leaders move like anchors in restless seas. Their steadiness gives others something to hold on to. They guide not by controlling, but by offering stability. People cling to that grounding presence, sensing strength that does not need to shout. Influence without a voice often shines in consistency. When someone's actions align day after day, trust builds silently. Words may inspire briefly, but consistency sustains respect. A quiet leader does not need to remind people of their values. Their life itself is the reminder. A leader's silence is not emptiness, but invitation. It creates space for others to rise, to contribute, and to be heard. By not overshadowing, the quiet leader allows others to step into their own strength. Influence then becomes shared, not imposed. Patience is a core of quiet leadership. Instead of reacting impulsively, the silent leader waits, watches, and understands before acting. This patience prevents unnecessary mistakes and communicates wisdom. People trust those who do not rush, but who act with clarity. Leading without words often requires presence. Simply showing up, being steady, and embodying values sends a message louder than speeches. Presence is influence in its purest form. It cannot be faked, and it cannot be ignored. Quiet influence also requires humility. It does not seek the spotlight, yet it shapes the stage. The silent leader does not need recognition to continue. Their power lies in impact, not applause, in the lives changed rather than the credit given. Confidence without arrogance radiates through silence. A leader who is secure in themselves does not need to constantly prove it. Their quiet confidence draws others naturally. People lean toward calm assurance, finding strength in what does not seek attention. The silent leader uses minimal words with maximum effect. When they do speak, their voice carries weight because it is rare. Silence makes space for meaning. The fewer the words, the stronger their imprint becomes. Quiet influence relies on precision, not volume. Discipline forms the foundation of this kind of leadership, controlling impulses, staying measured under pressure, and refusing to be swayed by chaos builds invisible authority. Discipline, carried in silence, becomes magnetic. It pulls people towards stability. Quiet influence works deeply in relationships. Instead of forcing loyalty, it earns it through fairness, respect, and consistency. People willingly follow when they feel seen and valued. Silent leaders build bonds that outlast speeches because they are rooted in actions, not declarations. Resilience is another hallmark of silent influence. When others see someone withstand hardship without collapsing, they gain courage themselves. A leader who suffers quietly yet continues forward teaches strength without ever needing to name it. Even absence can carry influence. A leader's departure from a room changes its atmosphere. People feel the void, noticing how much was carried in their silence. This proves that leadership is not only in words or gestures, but in the essence of presence. Quiet influence lasts longer than loud command. Words may fade, but the impression of steady leadership endures. The silent leader is remembered not for their speeches, but for their presence, their integrity, and the invisible impact of their calm. Mastering quiet influence is learning to lead without needing to prove leadership. It is guiding with actions, shaping with presence, and empowering through silence. This invisible strength is harder to see, yet more enduring than noise. True power often needs no voice. Every word we speak eventually fades, but the silent impressions we leave endure. A calm gaze, a patient pause, a steady presence, these become the true signatures of connection. The silent language does not shout for attention, yet it shapes the way people remember us. When you master it, you no longer chase influence, you embody it. Let your silence carry meaning. Let your presence speak louder than words, and you will find that the strongest bonds are written not in sound, but in the quiet power of connection.